So a couple days ago, I'm looking around on YouTube and this video pops up on my feed published by The Economist called How Technology Will Transform Your Kids' Education. And initially, I was really pleased to see that video because there's actually not a lot that's discussed in national news about how technology can have a positive impact on education. The majority of the conversation is around when can we get back to in-person classrooms as soon as possible. So I took a look at the video. I also took a look at the comments, and there's a whole plethora of anti-tech sentiment in there. It's kind of interesting. You should check it out. The video definitely brings up some valid points, like the fact that the education sector has been particularly slow to adopt new technologies. They also make the argument that the pandemic galvanized a tech acceleration in education, which I definitely agree with. But unfortunately, where the video is lacking a little bit is in the way that it describes how technology can be used to transform education. So it focuses primarily on two main categories. One of those is personalized learning programs, where students are basically on a program that's using artificial intelligence to assess students' current skill levels and then give them lessons and resources at their exact skill level. And then they also focus on this kind of random program where some teachers at a teacher education school are teaching avatars of students as opposed to real students as a way to build their skills.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we're to say interested in what life was like for the boy.
I do think personalized learning will likely play a significant role in the future of education. And sure, maybe we can also practice our teaching skills by teaching avatars of students rather than real ones. But I think there are clearly some other more impactful ways that we can use technology to transform education. And I also think that if some of the people who expressed negativity in the comments heard these arguments, I might be able to change their mind. And I know that's true because I used to be a tech skeptic myself. First, technology is the most practical way to help educators build interactive classrooms. Even though decades of research show that active participation is more effective for learning, there's still a decent amount of resistance to that model. Educators, because they've mostly known just one way of teaching and learning for most of their lives, and that's probably how they experienced education, just like how I experienced education. But then students can also be resistant to the idea of active participation too. Why? Because active participation is hard. I recently experienced this for myself in a class that I'm taking about storytelling. Part of the class takes place online, and the direct instruction usually happens via video. I've watched all the videos and done all the activities, and I started thinking to myself, hey, I'm learning how to do this storytelling thing. At least that's what I thought. The most recent assignment was that I actually had to tell a story to the rest of the entire group over Zoom, and it was way harder than I anticipated. It turns out that watching the videos and doing the activities wasn't quite enough. In fact, I haven't felt so uncomfortable in a very long time. I wanted to slink away and find a place to hide. But did I learn something much deeper about storytelling by actually having to go through the action of telling one? Absolutely. Now, of course, active participation doesn't require technology. You can randomize calling on students with popsicle sticks. You can do turn and talks. You can give students mini whiteboards so they write their responses down. But with technology tools like Pear Deck, Nearpod, Whiteboard just to name a few, you can pretty much instantly turn a passive participation class into a classroom where 100% of students participate throughout an entire lesson. The teacher can see their responses coming through in real time, and you can pull reports after the fact that you can use to make decisions about how to group students. You can also use those reports for parent conferences and so on. Technology also helps teachers extend active participation beyond interactive presentations to creating interactive content. Every single teacher in the world gives students articles to read, videos to watch, web pages to visit as a way for students to gather more information about whatever it is that they're learning. The problem? It's virtually impossible for teachers to know if students are understanding the material, and perhaps more importantly, it's just as challenging for students to know whether or not they're getting the key ideas while they're reading that article or watching that video. That's because most of the time we wait until after they've read the article or watched the video or visited the web page to ask them comprehension questions. But the problem is that if a student has challenges with comprehension, like many students do, or if we are exposing students to texts or concepts that are a little bit above their level, then just asking questions at the very end isn't doing anything to support them with increasing comprehension. What does support increasing comprehension is chunking text and videos into smaller segments and then embedding checks for understanding to help students hone in on key ideas. It's a simple shift, but using EdTech apps to turn all static content into interactive content helps make learning more sticky for students. It helps teachers better understand what their students know and don't know. It helps students self-monitor their own understanding, and it also frees up educators' time to actually be doing some small group instruction and teaching instead of grading those types of activities. It's pretty much an undisputable win-win that would be almost impossible to achieve without technology. And if you're looking for ways to make your static content interactive, the next time you want to play a video, just go check the Edpuzzle library to see if it's already been made interactive by other educators. And if you want to supplement your curriculum with an article, hop over to Actively Learn to see if there's an article that's already been made interactive in that platform. And if you want to assign students a web page, you can even upload it into Actively Learn and add interactive questions to that as well. And if you're going to have students check out images, just upload that image to a program like Cami, which will make it interactive so students can draw directly on top of it to make meaning out of it. That leads me to the next point about how technology can be used to transform education, and that's to help make learning more accessible. Accessibility means a lot of different things, but it really boils down to this. How can we stretch out our hand to meet students where they're at, rather than expecting students to learn what we're teaching no matter where they're at? One clear way that technology can help us make learning more accessible is through asynchronous instruction. So rather than or in addition to teaching on a physical whiteboard with a marker, if we use a digital whiteboard and a screen recording tool, we can then preserve that lesson for students to be able to watch on their own time at their own pace. And you can still have paper copies of lessons and resources and things like that. It's just that digitizing your curriculum makes it inherently more accessible. Of course, accessibility extends far beyond just making lesson materials more available. Technological tools help educators open up their curriculums in ways that would be very challenging to do without technology. For example, if a student struggles with reading or writing, they can use a speech-to-text or text-to-speech tool. And in general, technology just helps us give students multiple means of accessing the information that we're teaching. So instead of expecting students to all learn information from the single textbook that we use in class, we can offer them leveled text so that they're reading that information at their just right level. We can give them video, audio recordings, multimedia-rich presentations, web page resources, and so on. What's more, technology helps us expand what counts as academic in our classrooms. There's really no reason to limit students to showing their understanding through traditional means of assessment like quizzes, essays, and presentations. We don't have to get rid of those entirely, but we can also give students the opportunity to show what they've learned through making a podcast, by creating a video, by designing a solution to a real-world problem and then printing that solution out using a 3D printer. Unless we make an effort to change what school means, school will forever be something that works for some students and doesn't work for others. We can change that, and technology can play a key role in how we pull it off. And that leads me to my last point about a key way technology can transform education, and that's helping students take greater ownership over their own learning. Helping students take greater ownership over their own learning is one of the most profound shifts that we can make in our classrooms. It's a shift that dramatically impacts both teachers and students. One of the main reasons why teaching is so stressful and tiring is that it often feels like we're the ones doing all the heavy lifting in class. And students often feel a lack of control over their day-to-day lives and feel as though compulsory K-12 education has been forced upon them, and that's often a reason why students act out in class. When I first started teaching, I was literally the world's worst teacher. My first year was absolute living hell. It was so bad, I don't think there was ever a moment my entire first year when every kid in the classroom was sitting in their seat at the same time. In fact, it was so bad that a fight once broke out in my class and I didn't even know that the fight had happened because my class was just that chaotic. My first year teaching, I gained about 25 pounds, practically became an alcoholic, and broke up with my girlfriend of over 5 years. I truly hated my life, and at that time, I hated teaching. Now, my experience was definitely on the negative side of the spectrum, and it was largely because I totally lacked the skills necessary to be an effective teacher. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not like I made some change that transformed everything overnight, but what I did learn is that the more responsibility I transferred to my students, the easier my job became, and the more my students were learning. There are lots of steps we can take to cultivate student agency in our classrooms, but the most important step that I took was helping students understand exactly where they're at academically and then understand exactly what they need to do in order to improve. Tracking one's own data and progress toward reaching goals is an extensively documented, research-based way to help people achieve what they want to achieve in life. It's how I personally went from only being able to swim maybe one length of a pool and run a couple of miles to being able to swim 2.4 miles, bike 112, and run 26.2 back to back in a single day without stopping. It's also a key suggestion that James Clear makes in his best-selling book, Atomic Habits, about effective ways to change habits and improve. Now, yes, of course, students could do all of this data tracking on paper, but technology makes it indisputably easier for students to track their progress over the course of a single year and even across multiple years. It also makes it a lot less likely that they're going to lose their tracker at the bottom of their backpack. And it's not just self-progress monitoring. Students can also curate their own work to store in a digital portfolio, and then they can reflect on how that work shows their learning growth over an extended period of time. You can easily create a data tracker in Google Sheets, and I'll put the link to be able to download the one that I just showed in the video description. And if you're interested in learning more about how to use digital portfolios in your classroom to have students curate work and reflect on it, and even use that for a student-led conference, then I highly recommend you check out that playlist above to learn all about it.